Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Traffic Advisory Board of the Town of Orangetown. It's our meeting for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. I first want to reach out to everyone and say I hope everyone is finding themselves healthy and safe in this terrible time that we're facing, that we have to meet like this. But let's just pray that everybody stays well and this thing will go away very soon, and try to protect ourselves. I also want to thank Allison for putting this together so we could at least conduct some sort of business so we don't get too far behind. And I want to thank you, Allison, for putting all this together, and hopefully it'll go nice and smooth.
We'll
okay.
see.
Okay, so could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Allison is here. Elizabeth? Margaret?
Here.
Mike?
I'm here.
Okay. Mike Yanazone Jr. Paul Raza?
Yeah.
Bob Shaleen?
Yes.
Okay. Robert Simon? Robert Morrison? Sergeant Carey? Tom?
Here.
Anthony? And Kathleen? Okay.
Okay, so the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just run through the agenda items. I'd like to see if we can just approve the minutes of March 3rd. I think Allison sent them out. Somebody could just approve them, please.
I move we
I'll make that
approve.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
that's taken care of. As you can see on the agenda items, there'd be no public comment as we suspended that for the New York State emergency. What we will do is we'll conduct our business, and as we go through, anyone who's listening can email the town supervisor's office or Allison, and we'll make sure that we address those issues in the near future, at least get it onto the next agenda. Hopefully we'll be meeting with each other face to face. Okay, so I'd like to go to the first agenda item, and I'd just like to kind of pass over this, but I'll just comment on it a little bit. There's not much we can do right now because since then we did get a letter back from the New York State Department of Transportation from Ms. Sutter, kind of explaining what the process is for truck routes and identifying their roads as truck routes, and basically saying that if the town wanted to explore their own truck routes, they would be happy to work with us along with the county and try to establish that. We did try to get a meeting, but with all this going on, I think we're just going to have to wait and revisit this when things get a little better. So I'd like to just pass by that and go to item number 2, if that's okay with everybody, unless there's any question.
Yeah. Oh, who just, is that Kathleen? Oh, no, that's Surgeon. Okay. Sergeant Schiller. Okay.
Welcome.
Oh, you're not, unmute. Perfect. Sergeant. Oh, hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Sarge.
Hey, Mike, how are you? How's everybody
All
going?
right, we're doing good. We're all together
Michael.
somehow, right?
Michael, we're doing previous items now?
No, we're doing it number 1 on the agenda, which was the status update for the New York State officials to define local delivery, and that, yeah. So I'm just going to pass on that because we really didn't get a chance to set up any meeting. We did get a letter back from the state, quite detailed, but it's too detailed to go over now. We wouldn't be able to do anything about it anyway, right now.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, status update for request for a motion sent for traffic light adjustment. It's a long light on Blaisdell. The last we left it in February, we were waiting for the bids to come back, and they did come back from Verdi Electric to work on all our traffic signals. And I'm just going to have to check with this on status with that. I'll check with Stefan Muno from Highway, see what the status is, that if they ever got to that light or not. I'm not sure if they did. So, and there's nobody from Highway on right now, so I can't check that, but I definitely give them a call and I'll check that. Hopefully have a report for you next month. Number 3, this was the additional street lighting in downtown Pearl River. We took a look at it. We determined that if there was some lighting fixed on the telephone poles in the park area next to the MTA lot, that might suffice for lighting up the downtown area and the area around the park and the post office. But then there was some concern about the lighting up towards the library, and we were going to check with you, Mrs. Warren, to see if if there was any specific complaint. It looked like there was floodlights by the Pearl River Firehouse and a couple of street lights working. Was there any specific complaint that you know of why they would want additional lighting on Franklin Avenue between John Street and William? Just checking.
They want it in front of the library, mostly in the winter when it's dark at 4:30, because
Right.
they're running a lot of programs there now at night. So there's like a dark, it's dark. What can I say?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we change the street lights, what kind of lights are there now?
Well, that's what we'd have to look at. We got to see what kind of lights are there, if there's adequate lighting, if they're spread out. There was, when I went there at night, there was a lot of light coming from the back parking lot of the Pearl River Firehouse. Maybe that was, adding more light to that area instead of in front of the library. But if there's something we can do to enhance that lighting by the library, we'll take a look at it before the fall comes, when the days start shortening up.
Right,
That'd
that's what they're looking for. By the front entrance and, down the street, not so much across the street, they know, but the library people are not allowed to park in that parking lot. So they're parking up and down the street.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is that something we'll take a look at? Maybe we'll just have to add another light, before it gets too dark.
Before it gets dark, okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The new LED lights have they're much brighter, but they don't cover a large area, not like the old sodium vapor lights. All right.
Right.
So sometimes people feel that the area that's covered now with the new lights is inadequate as far as coverage goes.
The ones by the railroad station are owned still by O&R, so those should not be LED lights. And those were all fixed, all 3 of them.
Okay.
Those
That's
are
good.
not LED.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, Paul. When the town decided to go to LEDs, the LED light actually sort of the pattern, and you can see it, especially on a foggy night, the pattern is kind of an umbrella type pattern that goes down towards the road, as opposed to the lighting lights that's on Orangeburg Road, or used to be on Orangeburg Road, where you have a lot more, almost looks like daylight. I think, and I'm only speaking in my opinion, I think the town went to those LED lights to save money. I'm not sure of what candle power they were looking at or what they were trying to accomplish there, but I don't know what could be done to enhance those lights, if there's anything.
Well, as far as coverage goes, that's one thing. Problem is with the lesser coverage, the lights usually, if they replace the lights, it's like every other pole.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you have that dead spot in between the
Holes.
2 lights.
Yeah.
So all right, that's all. All right.
Yeah. No, I think it's, it might be a thing of cost, as opposed to how many more additional lights they'd have to put up. I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure of that, but I'm sure that's what the town was looking at the time, I believe.
All right.
Okay. Is there anything else on that?
Not for me.
Okay. Number 4, this is another one that I'd like to table until next month. We're going to try to meet the technical traffic advisory committee. We're going to try to meet at the end of this month. I think we set it up for the 25th or something like that. If everything goes with this situation, we're going to try to meet and go over the new counts that the highway department took Livingston Street and Oak Tree Road. They did do another count, not just on Livingston, but they also did Oak Tree by Livingston, and they also did Oak Tree east of Jane Street, just to see what turning movements and what kind of traffic we have there. I think once they look at that data, then the experts will come in and they'll say, well, now it's time to come up with a plan of what we think we can do there. And then they'll have the public come in, they'll present their plan, and then they'll see what kind of input we get from the public. And hopefully we'll come up with a solution to what the people are asking for on Livingston Street. I did speak to Miss Siegel, and she was very up on what she was trying to accomplish. She did some research as far as traffic calming messages and methods, and she understands that we couldn't meet, and she said that as soon as we can, she'd like to see something done. So we're going to try to hopefully the committee will meet the end of this month, and we'll have something for the traffic advisory board and everybody else to look at next month. So instead of beating this down, there's not much more we can do until we can get together. So anything else that anybody wants to know about that, or any comments on that? Have anybody? Actually, I've seen less traffic on Livingston because I do go down to Jersey myself, but that could be because of this situation that we're under.
All right,
So,
we can see that corner from the grammar school here, and there's virtually no traffic there now, really. So.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more when, when we're back to quote unquote something normal, where traffic is trying to get to Jersey and vice versa. So I think that's when they're really having the problem, and it's a legitimate problem. They have a good point. So I know we've got the years of the town managers and department heads, and they're going to do something. The police have been doing a really good job. I've seen them down there a couple of times sitting in the Washington monument there, and they're doing a pretty good job. So I guess traffic is starting to realize what's going on, and people are watching, so maybe they're going somewhere else. So let's just see what happens with this meeting. We'll talk about it next month. Okay. Number 5 on the agenda, it's the request for the no right turn sign, striping, restricted pavement markings on the shoulder at Orangeburg Road at the sharp turn on Blaisdell. I did get a response from county engineering. They are going to look at painting stripes on the shoulder of the road where people are cutting in behind other people that are making the right turn at that light. However, they said they'll try to do it, but they're not saying it's going to stop the problem. And then he went on to kind of quote a long section of the vehicle and traffic law, which I could probably talk to Sergeant Schiller or one of the patrolmen about. But I think asking him about the no turn on red or anything like, they're not going to propose that because they don't feel that that's necessary right now. So all he could say is we'll see what happens with the striping. Let's see if that stops people from turning. They can't put anything on the shoulder, that would prohibit them, like anything like a non-movable object or even barrels or barricades. It's not practical. This is what he's telling me. So all I can say is they're going to probably, stripe it, and we'll see what happens. And then when we do that, we'll notify the PD and see if they could maybe put a car there to see if they could start a campaign against people cutting off like that. And maybe the people will get the message and they won't do it anymore. Anybody got anything else on that?
Do we have a lot of accidents there?
I don't think didn't hear that. I think one part of the problem is that people obeying the white stripe on the side of the road, they make a right turn onto Blaisdell, and then what happens is they're sitting there waiting for the light to turn green.
Right.
Somebody behind them, or maybe 2 cars down, will come around and go into the shoulder and make the right on red, and somebody in the turn will get cut off, and that was the problem. So they're trying to prohibit people from going onto the shoulder of the road.
Okay.
So you could say, was there an accident? It's probably near misses. I mean, but that doesn't always fly when it comes to statistics. But this lady was complaining that she did it, and she was cited for it. It just happened to be an officer sitting there, and as she was getting the citation, another car did the same thing, and so she's trying to stop people from getting tickets. That's what she's telling us, if you remember that. So,
I remember, yeah.
so I did speak to Mr. Connors from County Highway, and they said when it's painting Orangeburg Road, they'll look at striping a no turn lane, not a no turn lane, just a shoulder, enhance the shoulder so people don't turn off on it. It's going to be similar to 303 where they make the right onto Orangeburg Road. Most people obey it, but there's always those some that are just in a hurry and they don't obey it and they cut you off. So got to be careful.
Can someone send her a letter or an email so that she knows that we worked on it?
I'm not sure.
will-
Maybe Allison. I don't know.
Sure. I'll
If we
send-
could just tell her that it was brought up and that we are looking at it, and county is going to try to do something to.
Right, so she knows we're working on it.
Right.
Yeah, I think I've spoken to her before, but yes.
Okay. Good point. Thank you. Let's see. Number 6. All right. This was for a new street light on the existing pole across from number 121 Swanican Road. I think Anthony did speak to the woman. And I think we were going to try to see if we can't get another light on that pole that's near her house. There is quite a distance between the one road that's off of Swanican and the turn that she's talking about. I think we were talking about adding another light there on that pole. I don't know if Anthony has spoken to you, Allison, or not.
No.
Okay. All right.
I'll reach out to Anthony after the meeting and I'll put it in the
Yeah,
minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I could do it too. I mean, I have his number, so I could find out. But yeah, I think he was going to check on that to see if that can be done. But they did enhance the turn by clearing out a lot of brush and some things that were prohibiting sight distance. So they did do that. So it makes the road a lot clearer. But I can see in the fall and winter time they may have to put another light there. There's quite a distance.
What?
Lights. Okay. Anything else on number 6? All right. Let's go to number 7. Yeah, this one was the light on Hillside. I don't think they're going to do anything to put a traffic signal there. It's a flashing red light. Most of the time, it's just being used by the residents on Hillside. And what this resident was asking was that during business hours, like working hours, people seem to cut through from Washington onto Servant onto Hillside, and that's because they're trying to avoid the light. Although that may be true, there are signage on Washington Street all the way down prohibiting traffic from turning on those roads. So again, not to overburden the PD because I know they got a lot going on, but that becomes an enforcement problem if people are doing it and they're getting away with it. So it's just hard to have somebody sitting there, but I don't think they're going to change that light to a regular traffic light. It's going to stay the way it is unless there's a big push to do it. And I think it was put there for the fire department so they could change the light to flash, when it's on red so they can get out when the fire whistle blows and they have to go to an emergency. So I don't know if anybody has anything else on that. Any questions? I don't, maybe we could do is notify Miss Morrissey, just to let her know that we did look into it, and it doesn't seem that they're going to be changing the traffic signal right now. They just have to look at people doing the cut through when they're not supposed to.
Okay. I did contact they put me on gave me a ticket number, but I haven't heard back from them. So I did reach out to them.
You can reflect that in a minute, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Item number 8. Right now, I mean, I was by there a couple of times. I don't know if any of you have been up there, but they have a traffic signal. They have a very enhanced crosswalk. There are signs there, and there's also a traffic guard or a crossing guard during school hours. So I'm not sure what generated this, but I mean, right now it looks like it's in pretty good shape. I know we were going to take another look at it, but I don't know what else really can be done. You know, there's a crossing guard, there's a light, and I don't know what else can be done to make it any safer, unless anybody has any suggestions.
Should we close the matter?
I think so. I don't know what else can be done unless anybody has anything else that they think can be done there. I mean, I looked at it. You know, when you go by there, there's a crossing guard with a big stop sign. They're very visible. They're dressed. I mean, there has to be some onus on the driver, you know, to be careful, you know, when people are crossing.
Right.
So I would say, yeah, we could close that.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9. This issue is probably going to be ongoing. I noticed just over time, because I go over there quite a bit, being these restrictions that have been going on, there's been a lot more traffic on Kings Highway. They are exceeding the speed limit quite a bit. I did see a couple of bigger trucks, but then I remember what Sergeant Schiller said last meeting, and it made a lot of sense, and I didn't really look at it that way, but you know, a lot of these trucks that were traveling on that road, they weren't really full. That you could tell they were empty. So I'm thinking that, you know, they probably weren't exceeding the 5-ton weight limit. So really, I think the only thing there is, outside of having an officer sitting there weighing, you know, trucks, it's going to be kind of hard to enforce 5-ton. But with, you know, the speeding problem, that's going to be, you know, all over, and that's where, you know, you need officers to sit there and force the speed limit. However, that's difficult to do because I think they mostly do that with the sector car. And if he's on another call, it's very difficult to watch people speed. So, and I, you know, maybe if Sergeant Schiller could shed a little light on that. But I think that's the issue, correct?
Yes, Mike, actually, you know, with the COVID New York pause shutdown, the truck unit, we were out there in March, the day of our March meeting, but we haven't been out there in April and then in May either. So
Right.
we're hoping to pick back up in June. You know, a lot of the inspectors from New York State DOT did not want to do inspections. They were doing more like online training with the state, just because they didn't want to get hands-on with truck drivers with the virus going around. And the same with the officers. We kind of took a little bit of a step back from proactive enforcement, especially with the trucks. And a lot of those truck drivers too were the ones bringing, you know, the groceries to the supermarket and medical supplies places, and we didn't want to infringe on their travel either. So I'm hoping to get them back out in June. You know, we can definitely, you know, touch on highway at that point and get out, you know, especially that specific location. See if I can get the New York State DOT down there for a June date.
No, it sounds good. And was I right in saying that a lot of these trucks are they're like half box trucks, and they're probably empty, and they're probably not exceeding the 5-ton weight limit, right?
Yeah, basic box truck that's unloaded is not, you know, 9 out of 10 of them are not going to exceed that, especially if they have a lower gross weight rating on the side of their truck. You know, they usually rate for what they're going to carry. So if they're going to make a pickup, or if they just dropped off, they may very well be coming in underneath that 5-ton weight limit. We'd actually have to be out there with the scales to actually weigh them, and then we can issue summonses based on actual weight.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So if there's no other comments on that, can we move to number 10? Okay. This one I think is pretty simple. I don't know, Allison, if you had any luck with the DOT, but I did see they moved the detour signs. So anybody that's not knowing where they are, they shouldn't be going up Old Mountain Road or coming down Old Mountain Road. That is kind of a tough configuration right where that interchange is near the thruway. but they do have it signed pretty good. I mean, you really have to look at the signs, but I see that they took the detour down for Old Mountain Road. So I don't know if anybody else has anything on that.
I did also contact the DOT. They gave me a ticket number, but I did not hear back. But I'm glad that they moved the sign, so that's good.
Yeah, because it was very, and I got, why it was happening. It was kind of confusing. Hopefully they didn't put it back up, but trucks would get there and they'd see detour and they try to go up that hill. And I think they probably meant it just for cars, not for trucks, but that wasn't really defined too well. So hopefully we won't have any more problems with that.
So can we close the matter or?
Let's close the matter, and if it comes up again, we'll have to revisit it. But I think it's all part of the interchange construction for the bike path and the reconfiguration of that interchange at the thruway in South Nyack. Number 11. This was just sent to the PD, I guess, to see if there was anything on speeding there. I don't know if they knew if anybody was there, if they did anything. They said people cutting through from Van to Lake Drive. And they were speeding and it was increased truck traffic. I think they were going to check it. So I'm not sure how that worked out. All right. So we can move on. I could double check with with Sergeant Schiller or maybe it was a post or something there, but I haven't heard anything else. Has anybody else heard anything about that?
No.
No, I haven't heard anything, Mike, on this end.
Okay. Well, we'll just see what happens. You want to leave it on there, Allison? That's fine. We'll see if we get anything for next week. Because you might get something from the public if someone is listening to us. 12. This has to be rechecked. I don't know what the status is of that. Like I said, I wasn't at the office, so I know Anthony was going to send one of the supervisors out to check this reflective sign on a barrier. But I think as of last time, they did paint and enhance the crosswalk there. So we'll double check that, and you can leave it on there. And if it's done, I'll call you and we can take it off. All right.
Okay, sure.
Number 13, I guess we can go right by that because they didn't have the St. Patrick's Day parade, right?
All right, so matter closed.
We're closed. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 14, this is another one. We asked the county to see if they could move that stop bar back. They said they were going to look at it, and if they think it's viable, they will do it and put the sign back there. I'm sorry, the sign back where they're supposed to stop. They said they would take a look at that and do it. I could follow up with that. I'll call over to Mr. Vizzetti and Mr. Connors to see if they have anything on that. Okay. All right, Paul?
It's fine, Mike. There is a sign post already there with a sign on it. All I have to do is technically just add a sign.
Okay. Well, that's
It's
good.
right at that location.
Right. Did you notice if there was a stop here on red anywhere there? No.
No, I haven't been down that way recently, but I will take a look.
Yeah,
And
me
if it's
too.
there, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I'll see if they take a look at it, but they may have done it. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything there, Michael. No.
Okay, Bob. All right, we'll double check it. But if it's that easy to do, I'm sure they would do it for us, and it makes a lot of sense to do it. So I appreciate that, Paul. Is there anything under old business or the old agenda? Okay, let's move on to new business. This one, I'm not really sure where this came from, so if somebody could help me out here. Stop sign needed at Orangeburg Road and Pearl River at the Old Middletown Road intersection in Pearl River. I'm assuming they're talking about coming up Orangeburg Road and stopping at Old Middletown.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Teresa Kenny was the one who wanted this.
okay, that I believe, and that's something we'll have to double check, but I believe they did a study of that whole section of road from Old Middletown Road to South Middletown and Henry Street, and then the small section of Old Middletown that goes out towards Middletown by the Gulf Station. They did that because I think it was last year before, one of the residents came asking that measures be taken because vehicles continued to go onto her property. And I believe there was some litigation in regard to that. But with that, I think the town did fund a study for that whole intersection. And I believe that intersection at Old Middletown and Orangeburg Road was part of that study to see if indeed stop signs were warranted. The reason why I believe there was never a stop sign on the hill at Orangeburg Road is because years ago, the bus route used to come through Orangeburg Road and go into Pearl River, and they didn't want the bus stopping on the hill in the wintertime. But since then, I think the bus route has changed. They don't go that way anymore. So I think we should try to find out from in. I don't know, Tom. Maybe did you remember that study, or was that just done by Highway? Tommy Dottel?
Yeah, the study was done. I guess it was given to Highway, and they're going to look over it.
Yeah, I was just curious if they included that intersection like we asked them to. Because I know there was different things like traffic markings and pavement markings and calming measures to slow down. But I don't know if they added that intersection. I hope they did.
I don't think they made any kind of suggestions about that intersection. Mostly focused on the curve.
All right, you think Highway has the study?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll check with Stephanie. All right. So Allison, we'll double check with Highway to see if you know what if anything they said. Okay. Now this is the one I've been looking at the backup here. We got quite a bit of emails to the supervisor's office, and this is speeding on Western Highway. I believe it's from East Lane to the Clarkstown line. I know during this time of year they put signs up, VMS signs, telling people to slow down because of I think the snapping turtles cross there and they go back and forth. There's a lot of them because of the swampy water. But I think, and maybe Sergeant Schiller could help. I think this is, if you read all these letters, it's really talking about speeding. Yeah.
Yes, actually, Mike, I have the report right in front of me. Officer Myers did go out and speak to Carolyn Hill on March 12th at 9:36. And she's saying that there's vehicles are continually breaking the posted 30-mile-an-hour speed limit when traveling northbound and southbound on Western Highway. During rush hour times of 7 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 5 in the afternoon is when she believes it's the highest volume of violations taking place. And that she has voiced her concern to the Traffic Advisory Board and at town board meetings. So she was also advised by the officer to contact the Rockland County Highway Department for additional signage and traffic control devices. And there was also, she provided a list of neighbors who also feel the same concern. And the police department has been monitoring this location. I'm not aware of any serious violations or accidents that have occurred there since. But this came in right after our March meeting. And then here we are. So this was going to be brought up by us anyway in April, but since April's meeting was canceled, it's glad to see that it was on the record for today.
Perfect. Good work, Sarge. Thank you. Okay, so number 3, we got a letter from Mr. Ryan in regard to speeding on Hunt Avenue. Was looking into some measures to prohibit that. And I'm looking, and we did do a count in 2015. Maybe what I could do is ask, I'm not 100% sure. They may have done a recount on Hunt Road. I'll have to check with Highway with that. If they did, we'll compare 2015 to now and see if there's been, 1, any increase in volume, 2, definitely any increase in speed. And volume would be something that we would look at if we were going to take a drastic traffic calming measure. But if it's not that many cars, then we could do for lesser traffic calming measures like signage and enforcement, that type of thing. So what I'll do is I'll check with the highway department to see if they did do a most recent count, and look at 2015, and we'll take a look at that and compare, and see if there's any comparison, and try to help the resident out. I mean, all of those roads, Hunt Road and Braunsdorf, and all those roads off of Middletown are tough because they are cut throughs, and sometimes if they're long, people can get a head of steam and not realize how fast they're going. So we'll take a look at that and see if there's anything that we can do to at least help them. But in the meantime, if the PD, if they could check it out and maybe just sit there, and that'll just put a police car there, that'll slow cars up for the time being. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I can send an email out to the squad supervisors, Mike, to have the patrol address that issue on Hunt. Sit out there
Okay.
and monitor traffic and the speed.
All right, we'll check the counts too. If they were redone, we'll compare them and see if there's any time limits where it's worse than others, and we'll try to get as much data as we can.
Hey, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like last fall.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't hear you. Somebody talking?
Yeah, it's Tom.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? I thought this came up about a few months ago with Duck Pitt.
It did. Yeah. And we were trying to. I think they may have did recent counts, but he's referencing a count of 2015. So what I want to do is compare those and see if there's been any increase, or maybe it's just okay. Maybe it just needs a little bit of enforcement. But if it's more than that, then we'll have to take a look at it.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Number 4. Speeding concerns on Kings Highway, large trucks, coach buses, heavy trucks might be damaging road and culverts. And the trucks and traffic are ignoring signs at Hickey Street en route to 303. Want speed and weight limits enforced, and perhaps speed bumps and traffic calming measures. Well, speed humps, speed tables wouldn't be considered there because that is a main road. Is a main road with a double yellow line. However, traffic calming, we'll have to see what goes on there. I have noticed a lot of bigger trucks there too. It's a narrow road. The only culvert is a small culvert where as you click close to the cemetery, and that's probably why there's a weight restriction on there. So hopefully when things open up, maybe the PD unit could actually go down there and see if there is actually a problem. But I think, and I'm not saying it's all true, but I think that a lot of those trucks are probably making deliveries to the Mother Hat and Dowling Gardens, which is senior housing in the back there. So I don't really see a lot of cut through, but I do see deliveries, and I'm not sure too much. I'm not too sure you can do anything about that. I mean, people have to bring food back there because you can't really get there from 340 unless you go through these certain gates that they have, and I'm not sure how they do that. So maybe it's something we could look at in the future to see if that's really happening. Unless anybody has anything else that you think we could do there. That's the Cemetery Road, Kings Highway.
Yeah, Mike, we've gotten the complaints in the past on that with the trucks, and we have sent the truck officers out there, and nothing major to report back. Like you said, there's a restaurant back there, there's the college, there's assisted living facilities. So there are deliveries being made, and those are local deliveries for that area. But I can also add that to squad supervisors to, again, start monitoring that location and take enforcement.
Yeah, I think the speeding, that's probably one of because it's a narrow road. I mean, if they're speeding, sometimes on a narrow road, you guys can be doing 30 and it looks fast, but if there's a problem, maybe we could take a look at that. Okay. All right. And I'll also talk to Highway about looking at enhancing signage and weight limits on that street to make sure everything's intact. And maybe we can enhance the signage a little bit too. maybe it's not visible enough, so we'll take a look at that. Is there anything else on that specific item? Okay, if not, just something I wanted to bring up, and Allison can help me out here, is that last month we talked about, we looked at the establishment of the Traffic Advisory Board, and we found the local law, I think that was enacted in 1971. And for the most part, it reads very true and well, but over the years, a lot of people have been added to the Traffic Advisory Board that doesn't coincide with what the law that was written said it should be. So what I wanted to let everybody know is that we're looking at that to make sure that the local law that establishes the Traffic Advisory Board and its duties, although we're just an advisory board, corresponds with the amount of people we have on. And right now, and I think Allison, if I'm wrong, we had, I think, 11 with me would make it 12, and I think it really falls for 5. And the reason why this came up was that, as Bob said in the beginning of the meeting, do we have a quorum? And those of us who have been on the board a long time, Bob, Mr. Warren, Paul, Tom, we've always had that question, is what constitutes a quorum? Because everybody gets appointed to the board, and really, you know, we can do basically whatever we want or whatever we agree upon to, but it should be that whatever we're doing, that it identifies a quorum and that the local law corresponds with the board itself. So I think what we're doing is we're looking at the wording, and thanks to our attorney Liz, she and Dennis Michaels and Rob Magrino, they all took some time out of their busy schedules, because I know they could be really busy, and Allison, and they really kind of looked into this thing, and they come up with hopefully some simple changes that we can make that doesn't, you know, recreate the whole wheel. It just makes us identify, you know, what we are, how many people we're supposed to have, what constitutes a quorum, who can vote, and who's an advisory. And, you know, there are experts on the board, which I think, in my opinion, should be advisory. And I think there should be voting members that, you know, maybe could just be the lay people that we have, because they're community oriented. They take the concerns from the community, and they're out there. And we have the experts that can tell us, you know, what we think we can do and what we can't do. So we are looking at, you know, doing that and redoing the law. And we'll hopefully by next month, we'll have something that we could bring to the TAB and vote on it, and ask the town board to accept it. And again, it's not recreating the wheel. It's just, you know, putting us into a perspective and corresponds with what we're supposed to be doing. Because over the years, as everyone knows, you know, well, we added when I started in 1997, we had 7 members. Three of them were experts, in my opinion. And then it just gradually added, and now we're up to 12. So we got to reach a common denominator, because the local law says I think we're only supposed to have 5. So other than that, if everybody's okay with that or has any questions, I think you know, we're in pretty good shape. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they'd like to bring up? Okay. Again, if the public is listening, if you have any concerns, please send your concerns to Town Hall, and we'll look at them and address them as best we can. And if there's no other business called before this meeting, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for all your help, and stay well and healthy to you and your families.
So long, Michael.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good job.
Everybody have a good month.
See you, Sarge.
Take care, Mike. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Okay.
Mr. Warren. Bye.
Bye-bye.